stuck with you. I prayed that he would turn around and take the stairs instead of the elevator, but there wasn't even the option of hiding behind someone else, for I was alone in the elevator and it was the end of the day. I had thought that everyone had left already. It was pretty late, but to my chagrin, he was headed my way. He was on his phone and he didn't notice me. I hoped that he would keep to himself and not look at me. Maybe he wouldn't notice that I was there. But thanks to Murphy's Law, he turned to look at me with his icy blue eyes as soon as the lift closed. He narrowed his eyes and turned back to his phone. I wasn't happy to see him either. I looked to the side and counted the seconds until the elevator descended and we went down. Then suddenly, the lights flickered and it came to a sudden stop. We looked at each other, then it lurched downward. A moment later, it came to a stop. It seemed that the elevator was stuck. I didn't even want to talk to him, so I checked my phone for the number of the maintenance guy. But unfortunately, there was no service. We were stuck in the elevator. No one could help us because everyone had left already, and now there was no service. He started to type on his phone. No use. There's no service, I shrugged. He shot me a glare as if I was the reason for this. He face-palmed and mumbled something about the stars. Trust me, I didn't want to be stuck here with him of all people either, but here we were. Suddenly, I remembered the emergency button on the elevator. I pressed it and hoped that we would get help soon. We were silent for a while. I got tired and I sat down. Soon, he followed me to the floor. Then he started laughing. I wondered if he was mad. We were in such a terrible situation, and he was laughing? And then, I asked him. Nothing, Tim. I just didn't expect to be stuck here with you of all people, he said. It's the highlight of my day, I guess, I chuckled. Do you think anyone's coming? Not at this time. Most likely early in the morning. I suggest you get comfortable and chill, I sighed. What a Friday night, huh? He laughed. I didn't believe that he and I were having a civil conversation after so long. We were not on the best of terms nowadays. Yep, the best, I said sarcastically. Yeah, at least you aren't out there taking advantage of someone and then leaving them the very next morning, right? He said bitterly. Reese, I began. Nope, don't try to explain. You had plenty of time. Days after that night, he said. I looked down. Things between us had gone downhill really fast. I was straight, but I was curious about my sexuality. I had explored it a few times, but I hadn't figured it out. Reese was my openly gay colleague, who I had gotten along with for several months. He was not a fan of mine anymore. One night, we went out with some colleagues for drinks. Reese and I had a bit to drink, and we ended up hooking up. I remembered a lot of what happened that night. We both had each other's consent. However, it was my first time going so far with a guy. I had only done kissing when I was high or drunk. I still had hetero relationships. I still thought of myself as straight. But I had an attraction to Reese ever since we met that I could not explain. The following morning, I had been freaked out because of what happened, and I left his place without saying goodbye. I had avoided him for several days, and he had not taken it too well. When I tried to explain, he had told me where to get off. At work, he did all he could to make my life unbearable, and I ended up disliking him a lot. To this day, we couldn't stand to be in the same room as each other. Call it fate or whatever, we were now stuck together for 12 or so hours. It had to be him of all people to get stuck with. The one person that I didn't get along with. That is not what happened, I sighed. What you did was shitty, dude. But hey, my feelings weren't hurt or anything. His icy eyes bore into me, and I didn't say anything to him. I couldn't help but noticing how they contrasted perfectly with his dark eyelashes. He could have anyone he wanted, and he made sure that everyone knew. I had just been another notch for him, so I had no idea why he was so pissed about what happened between us. I had enjoyed what happened, but I didn't know what to think of it, or him, so maybe I panicked and I had run away. Whatever floats your boat, Tim, he smiled. I don't get why you won't let it go. It was just one night. You could have anyone. Why are you so stuck on me? As soon as I said it, I regretted it. Maybe I was too harsh on him. You're right, I can have any guy I want. I'm not stuck on you, he rolled his eyes. I was silent. I didn't know what to say to him, so I played some music while the hours passed. But no matter how much I tried, I couldn't help but feel his presence. I hated that he affected me in such a way. He infuriated me, and all the feelings that churned within me because of him. I missed having him as a friend. We had gotten along really well, with the best banter. It was safe to say that I liked him more than I liked most guys, but to call them feelings would be exaggerating a little bit. Suddenly, he tapped me on my shoulder. I turned to look at him and he was holding a sandwich out to me. I was taken aback. That was the Reese I knew, who was always kind to everyone. I'd forgotten that he existed, due to how bitter he'd been towards me for the past few weeks. "Thank you," I said. "No problem, I didn't eat at lunch," he said. "You've always been a workaholic," I smirked. "There's nothing wrong with that," he smiled. "Not at all," I smiled. 5 hours had passed now. It would probably help to sleep and wake in the morning, but I couldn't imagine sleeping while suspended between floors. "I'm surprised that you gave me food," I said. "I'm not a monster. I wouldn't let you starve," he smiled, looking at me. He looked at me, and I didn't detect an ounce of hostility for the first time in a long time. "You aren't. I'm sorry," I said. "Why are you sorry?" he asked. "I know things haven't been the same for us since that night, and most of it was my fault," I said. "You shouldn't have left like that. I get that you freaked out, but yeah, that was kinda messed up of you to do," he said. "I know, and I'm sorry. You're a wonderful person, but the pressure, the fact that we are friends, you have to understand that was the first time that I was with a man," I said. "I know, I was a bit harsh in the way I reacted," he said. "Friends?" I asked. "Yes, we can try working on that," he grinned. "Good, 'cause I miss whooping your ass on BioShock," I said. "Great, I'm gonna show you who's the boss once we're out of here," he said as he yawned. "You're sleepy." "I don't know if I trust myself to fall asleep while in here," I said. "Well, it's up to you, but I do want to get some beauty sleep," he said. "You need it," I said. He shot me a glare, and I raised my hands in mock surrender. He fell asleep in a few seconds, and the next thing I knew, his head was on my shoulder. To be honest, I didn't mind at all. I sort of liked it. I don't know when, but I ended up falling asleep after a while. I guess being exhausted caught up with me, and I ended up falling asleep. When I woke up, he was next to me, and there was a commotion at the door. It was still closed, but I could hear that the maintenance guys had arrived. They managed to get us out in the next few minutes, and we got the rest of the day off. We didn't see each other for the rest of the weekend because we were both busy, but we planned to hang out after work on Monday. I couldn't help but be very excited. I couldn't stop thinking about our night in the elevator. I had been very comfortable so close to him, and I wondered what that could mean. When we saw each other on Monday, we smiled at each other. My friend Stacy couldn't believe her eyes, and she gave me a look that indicated that I owed her some tea. After work, I went over to his house. We just planned on playing a few games and having a few drinks, like old times. Nothing too serious. But I wanted to look perfect. My roommate ended up throwing me out of the bathroom because I was taking ages. I wanted to impress Reese for some strange reason. "Hey, ready to get served?" His eyes twinkled. "The only one getting served here is gonna be you," I smirked. We played video games for the rest of the night, and I got home late. We did that for a long time. It was almost a ritual. I could spend hours talking to him. Things between us were a lot different now. I looked forward to seeing him every morning at work, and after work, we'd hang out at either mine or his place, and the times when we were both working late, we would sync our coffee breaks. I was a bit of a flirty person, so sometimes I made flirty jokes with him, and he returned the jokes. One day, my roommate asked me if something was going on with him. He caught me off guard, and I denied it to my last breath. But that had me thinking. I was so comfortable around him, and there had been moments when we connected, and I thought that we were gonna kiss. But one of us would look away each time, so we didn't kiss. And I couldn't help being disappointed. I don't know, man, I'm not implying anything, but the amount of time that you spend together, and the way that you flirt, I'm just saying, he shrugged. He wouldn't go for me anyways, and I've never dated a guy before, I said. What's wrong with dating guys, he asked. Maybe I am attracted to him. Does that make me gay? I said. I don't know. All I know is that sexuality is complicated and wonderful at the same time. Do what makes you happy, he said. I didn't know that you were such a relationship guru, I said. I try, he said. What my roommate said to me made a lot of sense. I had never been 100% straight. I had kissed multiple guys in my life, and I had enjoyed it. But while experimenting, I held on to the label of being straight because I had never formed a relationship with any of those guys. I had this bad habit of overthinking and overanalyzing things, and coming to conclusions so quickly. It helped to save on therapy, but stressed me. Now that my roommate had helped to open my eyes, I was seeing Reese differently. I had been tentative around him. never fully entertaining the idea that we could be together. But now all I could think of was that I wanted to be together. No matter what my sexuality was, I wanted the chance to get to know him and to develop something with him. But would he give me a chance? After what I had done to him that night, I had hurt his feelings, even though he refused to acknowledge it. One night, we were at a small restaurant. We were too tired of video games, so we decided to check out a new place that had opened. I think I might come here often, I said. I think you're right. Their food is really good. You've been distant all night. Is there something you want to talk about? He asked. Damn him. He was always able to read my mood, no matter how much I tried to hide it. I tried to gather the words to explain how I was feeling, but they didn't seem to fit together coherently. Do you ever think of that night? I asked him. Where is this going? I thought we sorted that issue. I get that you're straight. It's okay. He looked a bit sad when he said that. I'm not entirely straight, I said. He raised an eyebrow. What I'm saying is, I don't know what I am, but I know something, I said. You're confusing me here. What are you trying to say? I like you as more than a friend, I said quickly. Might as well rip it off like a band-aid and deal with the outcome. I thought, he said. I also thought that, but then as I got to spend more time with you, I realized that I really liked you, and you made me feel whole, I said. I like you too, but I was never gonna tell you, because I figured that you regretted that night, he shrugged. A very wise person helped me to realize that what matters is how I feel, and labels not so much, I said. Well, I'm glad that you realized that, he said. I smiled, and then we looked at each other, and we were silent. Are we together now, or? I said. He burst out laughing. Hold your horses. I know that I'm irresistible, but we haven't had a date yet, he smirked. Is that your way of asking me out on a date? I said. Do you have an extra ticket to see the new Spider-Man movie? Would you like to come with me? He asked. Yes! A few months later, Reese and I ended up going to the Spider-Man movie. We were both big fans, and it was all we could talk about afterwards. Then, before we each went to our homes, he kissed me for the first time since that night. It was different to that night because this time feelings were involved. He kissed me softly on the lips, but he pulled away before I was ready. I must have looked sad because he gave me another peck before getting into his taxi. Things between us both changed and remained the same. We still hung out, but most of the activities that we did involved kissing. Our friends weren't even surprised when we told them that we were together. Stella was the one who was the happiest about our relationship. The only one who I thought was happier was my roommate. But I think he was just glad that he had the flat alone for himself for most of the time, because I spent all of my time with Reese. When we had our 6-month anniversary, he got me a cake. And would you believe the shape of the cake was? It was of an elevator, and the day we had gotten stuck together. Gosh, you're corny, I rolled my eyes. I call it creative, he smiled, as he cut a piece for me. Wow, this tastes like heaven, I said. Nope, not quite like heaven, he smirked. And why would you say that, my love? I asked him. Because you taste like heaven, he grinned. Cannibal. You're cannibal. Ah! I mock screamed as he hit me on the nose with a piece of cake. You're going down, I said in a low voice. Catch me if you can, he sang as he hurried away from me. I ran after him with a piece of cake in my hands. Knowing him, he was headed towards the bedroom. He was so predictable sometimes, but adorable nonetheless. That didn't mean that he was going to escape from me though. Babe, I said I'm sorry, he yelled as I caught up with him. I just laughed at him in an evil voice and got my revenge. Sometimes you let go of someone because you aren't ready, but fate brings you together and you get a second chance. That elevator getting stuck was my second chance. It forced me to see what I had done to him, even if I didn't like discovering what I had done was wrong. Life is too short to hold grudges, and to let misunderstandings get in the way of something beautiful. I was so happy that I'd gotten him, my wonderful but mischievous sweetheart. Take a chance on love. You never know what might happen. Your person might be right in front of you. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.